Welcome back everybody. Let's have a look at XRP, SXP, and of course we're going to have a look at Bitcoin. So before we start, I should mention that traditional markets at the moment aren't exactly accurate because the American markets are having a bit of a day off basically. But the FTSE, for what it's worth, and not that it wields much power behind anything, is actually gone up by like 2.5%, which is good. For the FTSE it's good. It doesn't wield any power over Bitcoin, but it is an indicator that maybe a lot of this movement down over the last end of last week was profit taking, rather than markets collapsing. So I'm going to present to you an actual bullish situation at the moment. And in amongst the chaos, I've got a bullish situation for you, and it's this. And we're going to have to come down to the lower time frames because the bullish situation that I've got for you is really just for the small term time frames, but it could offer a reversal and a movement back to the up. But that depends a lot on how traditional markets are going to look tomorrow. I should mention as well that oil is down as well, so that's a precursor to maybe some more downside to traditional markets because of the petrodollar. Everything is kind of intertwined. But anyway, we're more interested in crypto, and I promise I'll move on to SXP and XRP, but we're just going to have to look at Bitcoin because Bitcoin's the one that's going to dictate the way that this goes. So, on the 2-hour time frame is the best way to look at it. And basically, what we've got here is we've got a descending trend line here, creating kind of a descending wedge formation, and these often break to the up. Most of the time they do. About 70% of the time they break to the up. So we are expecting this trend line to be broken out of, but not without being rejected from, obviously. So obviously it started here, rejection there, and rejection here. Looks like we're getting a rejection here, so we'll probably come back down to test these lower levels, but breaking maybe 10,000 or maybe on 10,000 itself, because that's where the daily and this 2-hourly Bollinger Band is. So 10,000 is a psychological number to break down beneath, but wicks can take us down to this level here. And also this blue box area here, this is the CME gap, so it's quite a big gap, $200 worth of gap, and we keep coming down to test it ever so slightly. So we're not that's not filling a gap, that's basically going, nah, we're not going to fill it. Oh, no, we're not going to fill it. Nah, we're not going to fill it. But we might fill it. That's all I'm saying. We're so close to filling it. It just wants to get filled. But what it's doing right now is it's just being used almost as it's just being teased with, and you and me are all being teased with it. We want it to get filled. We just want to get this over with. And we assume, I suppose most of us assume, that once that's filled, then it's okay and we can move up. But that's not obviously how things work. But that's how the psychology of crypto often does work that way. So if mass psychology works that way, then so the candle bodies most of the time. So, but anyway, that's what's going on here. So this is good news in the short term anyway. So we are likely to break to the out of here, statistically likely to break to the out of here. I'm not saying we will, but statistically we're more likely to break out of this formation than break down from it. But that's obviously, just short-term time frames. If we do break out of it, where we will be rejected from, well, we've got a big resistance box here, starting from 10,004 to ending up at 10,550. So that would be a rejection area. Breaking above there, obviously we could sail all the way up. So we're going to look at it back on the daily now, just to get a little bit more of a longer-term time frame on it and see what this looks like. So I mean, it's not the worst-looking chart. It doesn't look very good, I should say. But we've got our 200 exponential still above that, but the green 50 is facing down and wants to come down. We've got death crosses on the 4-hourly on all crypto at the moment. Nothing's escaped that death cross, so the death cross has happened on the 4-hourly. So we'll move back onto this because obviously that's the bullish scenario. There is obviously a bearish scenario, and I talked about it in a video the other day, so I'll leave it to the end of this video in case you've already seen that. I'm going to bore you to death. Let's move on to some of these other coins. So let's look at XRP to start with. So there's also a bullish situation going on here, bullish scenario I should say, maybe not a situation. We're getting buybacks on these low levels here. Now this is our last stand really for XRP. Breaking down beneath this yellow, which is the 200 simple moving average, which appears where we're finding support from. Breaking down from there, there's basically a free fall. This red doesn't really count for anything for XRP. That's a Bitcoin thing that I have in there because it's relevant to Bitcoin. It's not relevant to XRP. So falling down from here, there's nothing to catch us, just previous supports and resistances. So I would expect that we'll be bouncing around if we did fall down, we'll be coming down to around 20 cent, maybe 20 cent to about 19 $0.015 where we found this little base where we had this bull flag and then launch all the way up. So it could be bad, and that's where I'd expect. Now I did make a video on XRP maybe a couple of weeks ago saying that, and this a 23-cent XRP is where I'd expect it to launch from if it hit. So that would be the ultimate buyback. But looking at it now, I should really put my money where my mouth is and go ahead with that. But I think what I'll do next time, because I'm not, contrary to popular belief, I don't just sit around on my computer all day. I've got so many other things I do in my life. I just don't have the time to sit around trading all day. Not like I used to anyway. I used to do that kind of thing. I don't do that now, as much as I'd love to. So I'll set an alert for myself next time we come. I'll set it just above 23, so maybe 23.1 cent, and I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I'll go log on it, maybe with a 2 or maybe a 3x long, to see how that goes. And it'll probably only be a bounce, because we're getting buybacks here, so we are having bounces here, but there will be a stop loss, trust me, because like I say, a free fall all the way down is what we'd be likely to see if it does collapse below there. So the alert would trigger. I'd find out what's going on with it. I'd have a quick look at the rest of the market, and I'd decide whether it's something I want to buy back. That's how I would do it. I'm not saying you do it that way. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't do what I'm saying I'm going to do. Do your own thing, make your own strategy. That's my strategy, basically. That's my plan, and I'll set that plan out, and hopefully I'll carry that out. So this is what's going on with it now. We're at the last stand, bouncing here. 23 cent was a decent area to be buying it back from. And if we do launch, I probably expect rejections. Probably a lot of these areas, 25.5 to 26. These are the areas, and we're using moving averages to find these supports and resistances. So they change daily. So that area that I've said today wouldn't be the same case tomorrow. It would be a lower area of rejection, and the day after that would be lower, and the day after that would be lower. They're moving averages, they move. So me giving you supports and resistances is going to be difficult because they change day to day. So that's going on with XRP, and XRP, like I say, could bounce from here, and it could bounce significantly if Bitcoin has also found its bottom base here and breaks out of this descending wedge formation. So let's look at our last coin here, which is SXP. Now SXP, I like it now. I do like it. I bought some back here, so you can see this trend line here. This is where I bought in, because it was a really not a tradable coin. People would tell me to buy it, and I bought it on the back of fundamentals, but I wanted to find a decent entry point. So I saw that it rallied. I said I'll buy it when it breaks out of this descending trend, which is where I bought it. So I bought it down here, roughly around $1.50, and I took profit some up here, and I've been buying it back, and I intend to buy it back quite a lot actually. But for the moment, what we're seeing here is that we've got this blue box area here, which is basically resistance, which we were struggled in before we had the big breakout. So we struggled within that area, and now we're beneath it, being rejected from it as well. So yeah, we had little rallies and runs up, but being rejected from there, being rejected from the centre of the Bollinger Band, and so long as we're beneath here, I'm not expecting any big runs from it at all, to be honest with you. Don't expect anything big from this until Bitcoin's decided what it wants to do. SXP is likely, in my book, to come down further because it's extremely weak. A lot of people getting out of it because it's come down massively. Let's just measure it out from some people obviously bought it up here. Some poor people bought it up there, and they're down 66% at the moment. It makes me want to cry. But that's their situation. But I don't think they have to worry too much, because fundamentally this is strong, and they burnt 10 million coins not long ago, and obviously it hasn't really made a dent and not really made an impact on the price at the moment. But the fact that they did that shows that fundamentally there is an incentive for this coin to go up, but it just cannot go up in a market that looks like it just wants to collapse on itself. So for the moment, I think that all of these areas down here are worth buying, in all fairness. Buying it at this level is probably worth buying. Well, it is worth buying, because the way I see it now, this is one of those coins that I've bought on its fundamental basis rather than any trade. So I would expect this one to increase quite a lot over time, due to its use case and backing by Binance. It's not going to be allowed to die, basically, but it's looking pretty good. So I do think that it's going to make some decent impacts over the next year to 18 months. But for the moment, it's stuck beneath this blue box territory, and we're not going to see any decent moves until it breaks out of that. The blue box area ends at $1.85, and it starts at $1.73, so we're beneath that, being rejected from it. I do want this one to come down even further because I'm greedy, and I'd like to see it come down to test some of these even lower levels. We're talking $1.50. $1.50 would be a great entry, and then if it does collapse, and it collapses further than this wick, which is $1.26, then it would be really nasty, and those areas would definitely be worth buying. Anything below $1, which I'd be very surprised to see, would be an unbelievable buy for SXP. But death cross 4 hourly doesn't look good. Below all major moving averages doesn't look good. Bitcoin looking like it wants to come down maybe again to another $300. That's not going to be good for SXP. But the long-term hodl value on this one fundamentally does appear to be quite sound. So if you're prepared to, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, but for me, I'm prepared to go in on this one at these low levels, with the hope that we'll see a 10 or 20x on this one over a year to 14-month period. So I'm okay with that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. Actually, before I actually do go, I said I was going to present the bearish scenario for those who didn't watch my video the other day. So this is the long-term situation with Bitcoin. We have this long-term trend line that goes all the way up, and it's support and resistance. We've got resistance and support and resistance. Resistance and support, resistance, and then lots of resistance this last month all the way here until we finally gave into it, and we came down and corrected to this level that we're all pretty aware of at the moment. So we came down, and so far we're 18% almost. So let's have a look at the last times it's done this. It's done this in the past. It's done this quite a lot in the past, because that trend line, this is some daily time frame, so that when we zoom all the way out, we're talking 2.5 years worth of relevant trend line action there. So that's 17.5% at the moment. The last time we touched it over here, that rejected. Well, we're not going to count this big one, but if we were to do that just for fun, we're talking 64%. I would count it down to this level here, and that's a 20% correction from there to there. Let's have a look at this one. It's did it again here. So get the trend line to the bottom here, and that was a 35.5% rejection. We broke down from it here. Let's measure that one. So this is a significant one. Down to this level here, that was a 20% rejection there. What's this one here? Happened again over here, didn't it? So that had a 16.5% drop. This one here, so it just goes on and on and on. This trend line just is the gift that keeps on giving, or should I say the trend line that just keeps on taking. 16%, and without the rest of it, obviously. Actually, we could count that one as well, couldn't we? Really, let's just count that one, and then we'll come all the way back down to here. That's a 58% drop. It just happens more and more and more and more. It happens all the time. In fact, let's just even count this one here. What the hell? Let's go all the way back to 2017, and that one there was a 42% drop. So you can see that this trend line likes to really, it can really push it down a hell of a lot. This has happened over the last 2.5 years, and it's probably going to continue to happen. This trend line is one of those trend lines that you want to have on your chart, because it's been relevant for such a long period of time, and it's clearly relevant today. So stick that into your chart and see where we go from there. Breaking above there is great. I mean, we did break above there. It didn't really work out for us. We got support on there for 2 days, but being above there and staying above there is great. And even if we were to rally and go into bull market territory and we're way away from it, one day we'll come down to test it again. I bet you we will, because this is going up. It's always going up. It's going to go up forever, because it's the trend line that's set in stone. It's not going to move. It's going to go up forever. It might end up being a relevant trend line that you might want to employ on your charts for a very long period of time, if not indefinitely. Anyway, that is the bearish scenario. And like I say, we have come down a dramatic amount, 18% so far. But as you've seen in previous history, we've come down as in one instance recently. You could argue that was 64%. But generally, it's around about between 16 to 20% most of the time. But we've seen bigger ones than that. This was a 40%. This was a 40%. It's a nasty trend line to be rejected from, and we have been rejected from it. So the pain may not be over, even though the short term time that I've presented to you a bullish situation temporarily if we break out of this sort of descending wedge formation. There is a bit of hope in the short term there that might have continuation, but also longer term, when you stand back and zoom out, you see that actually, this is a significant place to be rejected from, and historically it can be very painful. We might only be halfway through the pain, but who knows? This is our first opportunity, I'd say, to buy back at these levels. There is a chance that is it, and it might not go any further down than that. But there's also another chance that it could come down a hell of a lot more. Anyway, I'm going to leave it with you there. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice evening. And by the way, I'll leave some links, and they're probably up on the screen right now, of some more fundamental based analysis that I've done on some of these other coins. I'd really appreciate you watching those, and leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a comment or anything, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.